I think what you'll see with military commissions is there is going to be a full and fair trial.
It is going to cause a great deal of problems around the world if people are sentenced to death under a system that is not viewed as fair.
Even with the rules that we face, I'm convinced that we can provide for effective justice within this setting.
No one should be tried before these tribunals unless the rules and the procedures are substantially changed. If you can't try somebody fairly, then it's not fair to try them.
As with so much in the world these days, the Pentagon, America's defense headquarters, lies at the heart of it. The Pentagon will be dispensing justice to the inmates of Guantanamo Bay.
America's military chiefs will tell you they're bringing international terrorists to justice. And certainly the military's been involved at every stage, from capturing people in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Africa and elsewhere, to incarcerating them in Guantanamo Bay and at other undisclosed locations around the globe. Now the Pentagon's preparing to bring some of these people to trial. But the terms of those trials before military courts are causing grave concern, with claims that this form of justice will be so limited as to be no real justice at all.
The tribunals, commissions as they call them, will begin with the trial of 6 men, 2 from Britain. At the Pentagon, a basketball-playing military lawyer, Colonel Will Gunn, will be Chief Defense Counsel. He'll represent the men his president has labelled terrorists. Colonel Gunn says his is not the glamour role.
What I mean by that is that when I was initially contacted about taking on this role, I didn't initially seek it out. But what I saw immediately was that the chief prosecutor was perhaps that person that could be applauded in the press, that person that individual Americans could easily look to and say, hey, he's providing a service to the nation. But as I reflected on it further, I saw that there is a need for a very different type of service that's every bit as important, and that's being performed by my office.
Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, Camp Delta. We're told there are 680 prisoners, 9 of them British, in what the UK's senior judge has condemned as this legal black hole, detained incommunicado without charge or trial. The tribunals are to address that.
All the enemy combatants that are at JTF Guantanamo right now are in some form involved in terrorist activities. They are in the proper place. We are safeguarding our nation.
There he is. There he is.
So the commander doesn't question their guilt, nor their status as enemy combatants, a definition unrecognised by the International Red Cross. Prisoners of war, if tried, could expect the same conditions as American soldiers at a court-martial. Enemy combatants face new rules.
The military in the United States is very proud of military justice. This isn't it. This is a much lesser version of what that is. And what we have concluded is that they won't meet international fair trial standards.
In a commentary, human rights and legal campaigners say the military tribunal or commission rules are inconsistent with the provisions of the 1949 Geneva Conventions. They note the astounding limitations on defense counsel, saying the rules could prevent lawyers from trying to locate and talk to witnesses. They add that defense counsel must represent their clients knowing that any communications with them may be monitored by government officials for security and intelligence purposes. They can be bugged. Colonel Gunn is disarmingly candid about the problems his defense team will face.
As we go into this process, the ability for an individual accused person to feel comfortable with their lawyers is something that I'm extremely concerned about. We will have a cultural divide that will take us time to overcome if we're ever able to overcome it. So I see that as a fundamental challenge associated with representing individuals.
So it's a challenge. What about the challenge that the defendants won't be privy to certain information, certain intelligence evidence against them? They won't hear that.
That, of course, could be a challenge in a given case.
What's called a gag order on defense attorneys means that if defense lawyers are given prosecution evidence based on intelligence or protected information, they won't be able to check on it with their clients. Joe Onek, advisor to America's Military Lawyers Association, describes parts of the military tribunal rules as outrageous.
The problem is that there's certain evidence that will be given to the lawyer, but won't be given to the defendant, and the lawyer can't even give it to the defendant. So let's give an example. Supposing the secret evidence is the name of an informant. Well, if the defendant doesn't know it, he can't defend himself. Suppose that that informant is a lifelong enemy of the defendant or a family that they feuded with for 1,000 years. He won't get a chance to present that argument and say, look, this is totally unreliable, because he won't know the name of the informant. And that's what worries us.
Inside the Pentagon, those responsible for setting up the military courts see no problem. But apparently our visit was the first time the detail of their plans had been questioned.
I'm confident that the commission process has been set up to be full and fair, and I think that the rest of the world, when they realize that they are open to be observed as much as practicable, will have the same impression when they see things like proof of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
But it's one of the basic tenets of natural justice that an individual should hear the evidence which is facing him, surely.
There is an ongoing war on terrorism that's going to have to keep going. And in order to try individuals while still protecting valuable information, military commissions provide the best way to do that.
So the Pentagon see the commissions as a compromise between the need for some form of judicial process and the imperatives of their war on terror. Others say that's not good enough.
One of the most significant flaws in the way the military tribunals are structured is the lack of independent civilian appeal. What that means is that the president, through his military designees, will serve as judge, jury, prosecutor, and potentially executioner.
The soldiers call me by the name of Tiger and Slim Shady for some reason. Azif and Shafiq are doing okay as well.
In Tipton in the West Midlands, 3 families live for Red Cross letters from their sons. They thought Rul Ahmed had gone to Pakistan for a wedding. The next they heard, he and his friends were in Guantanamo Bay.
I know I haven't been a good son. How can you forgive me?
Now talk of a military tribunal leaves Rul Ahmed's parents bewildered.
I don't know anything about military code. How do these people run? And I don't know this idea for the military code. Take my boy. All soldiers there, every soldier helping each other. So, and my boy is an innocent person, but probably these people saying he's guilty.
2 Britons, Maazem Beg from Birmingham and Feroz Abbasi from Croydon, are to be the first to face the military courts. Whether the Tipton 3 will follow is uncertain. Similarly, a decision is yet to be made on the 3 under-16s in Guantanamo Bay.
Will you be defending juveniles? Children, in effect?
If juveniles are brought forward and charged, then yes, we would provide defense services to them.
And that's possible, isn't it?
That is a possibility, is my understanding.
And you'll be defending people who will face the death penalty, perhaps?
Anytime we're talking about a death penalty case, of course, we're talking about the ultimate aspect of criminal justice. And I'm very concerned with respect to that. But with respect to that, what I'm convinced of is that we have people on the staff. We're going to make use of all the resources that we have available in order to provide the very best possible defense for such an individual.
So the stakes for those on trial couldn't be higher, and yet the legal standards are well below those acceptable in America's own courts, civil and military.
Despite everything, the president's undeterred. Indeed, some individuals who had been facing criminal charges have now, on the president's orders, been plucked from the justice system and placed in military custody instead. The charges against them have been dropped, but they're now in a legal black hole. Without lawyers or legal recourse, the only thing they've got to look forward to is the possibility of a military tribunal.
His name is Ali Al-Mari. He comes originally from the Persian Gulf nation of Qatar.
Ali Al-Mari was suspected of planning future al-Qaeda attacks in the US. But last week, on the eve of his trial, he was suddenly put into military custody.
He had been prosecuted for approximately 18 months, and there had been a number of motions and a number of proceedings in the criminal case.
Al-Mari now joins America's alleged dirty bomber, Jose Padilla, in legal limbo. It's also believed the government's considering the same treatment for Zacarias Moussaoui, the so-called 20th hijacker.
This is part of a trend whereby the government takes people, Padilla, Mr. Al-Mari, and I believe in the very near future, Mr. Moussaoui, and extracts them from a criminal justice system where they have a great deal of process available to them to challenge the conditions of their confinement or to attempt to avoid a conviction. And in an effort to subvert all of that, grabs them, extracts them, circumvents the entire system, and I think that they believe, based on their experience, that a more coercive atmosphere is likely to yield different kinds of results, that is, a confession.
You mean they can interrogate him and pressure him?
Absolutely. And that's what they will do. This is an effort to interrogate him in a way that they never could when he was in the criminal justice system.
At Guantanamo Bay, the soldiers' souvenir shop stocks T-shirts. The rodent cartoons and slogans, home of the Sand Rat and Taliban Lodge, show military humour is typically robust. This, of course, doesn't mean there'll be a problem with the trials, but it won't help outsiders' perceptions. And whatever the real guilt or innocence of the accused, perceptions are crucial.
Sometimes I think the people in the Defense Department forget that the real goal here is to prevent future terrorism, which means we have to prevent the creation of future terrorists. And there are a lot of 17-year-old or 16-year-old boys all around the world who are watching what we do and will watch these hearings. And we don't want to make Guantanamo trials a symbol to them of why they should be opposing the United States and the West in the future. I think that's the danger, one of the dangers here about having procedures that are not perceived to be fair.
This country has long said that we're about justice being done. That's what the principle of Americanism means to many people. And if that's going to be true, if that's going to be true not just today but in the long run, then we're going to have to be about justice, not just when it occurs for someone else, but also when we're threatened.
On that, the whole world agrees. What's at issue in the coming trials isn't only the lives of the accused, but the legitimacy of their accusers.